People are willing to spend a week in jail to forgive their student loans, and Zillow gets rid of Make Me Moves. Tune in to Toole Time right now. I'm Tom Toole. She's Jess Lion. We are back on Toole Time. Very exciting as always. Student loan debt, Zillow again in the news. So let's just start from the top. Well, they're always in the news because they're synonymous with real estate.
Yeah.
So there was a study done by OnePoll on behalf of Splash Financial, and it surveyed 2,000 students, undergrads, postgrads, all degree holders. And they went over insights about the sacrifices that people make to pay off their student loans. And from the survey, 39% said they spend a week in jail to get their loans forgiven. What do you think about all this?
I think that it's one thing to look at like what you would do now to pay off your student loans and get them forgiven. But I think it's a whole nother conversation about like, what kind of debt are you getting into? I feel like a lot of people really don't understand that, especially at a young age when they're deciding on what school they're going to, what major, is college even for me. So I feel like that's the first thing that would really need to get addressed. But what I would spend a month in jail if I could get my student loans forgiven. I really would. I would do a lot of things to get that's a lot of money.
So let's talk about how much money it is. So the total student loan debt in America is estimated at $1.52 trillion. That's with a TR. Mm-hmm. And in 2018, that debt rose by $79 billion. And then in the first quarter of 2019, it rose by another $29 billion. There's 44.7 million student loan borrowers in the U.S., and 71% of students who leave college have debt to pay off. So it's a major financial obligation that we're seeing in the country right now, and the average student loan debt per person is just over $31,000. The average monthly payment is $393, and it takes people between 10 to 30 years to pay off their loans. So the question here is, for some people, was it worth it for them to get into that kind of debt where they are now? And there's no way to tell until after you get out of college. There's no way to tell. And it's not just the education. It's the life experience. It's what did you learn. And the flip side of that is some of the most successful people I know, or that people know, Bill Gates dropped out of college.
Right.
Our friend Tom Ferry didn't go to college. Those are two. And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't go to college. That's a personal decision. To be successful, you don't have to go to college.
That's right.
That's more what it comes down to. And self-education is where a lot of the growth is right now. I mean, you have consulting companies, coaching companies. People are paying thousands of dollars a month to help them with what they're doing. So, to your point, I mean, I don't know that I would spend a week in jail for anything.
Really?
Period.
Couldn't be that bad. Getting a good group.
Well, if you want to pay off the debt, look at it the other way. What could you do to pay off that debt besides going to jail, right? So maybe you work a little harder. Maybe you do some things differently. You'd have a side hustle. And all those things.
It might not take a week.
Well, it may not take a week, but you're also not in jail. So, and they don't tell you what kind of correctional facility you're in, who are you going to be in jail with. I mean, these are real questions. You go in there. I mean, jail is not a place
serious.
I want to go. Well, it's a real question. It's the idea of it's fine. But when you really think about it,
who are you going to be with?
You could fall in with some really dangerous people that could harm you for the rest of your life.
Pretty
so
tough.
Okay.
I think you would be able to make it.
That's not a question of making it. I think the bigger issue here is that that's what people are willing to do because the system is broken.
Right.
Tuition costs are going up all the time. And a lot of times when kids come out of school, they can't even get a job in the first place.
It's so tough.
Or a job that they want.
Or a job that they even went to school for. So I feel like the conversation needs to be had before you're making that decision. What are your options? I know my sister is in that transition period where she's going to be going to school next year, potentially. And I was listening to that Dave Ramsey podcast, like I always do, and he was talking to someone, and there's this book out there called Debt Free Degree. And I was like, you should definitely read this. But that, I feel like just getting more savvy on ways that you don't have to get into all this debt is what people going into college really need to look at.
What was your major?
Mine was communications.
Communications. So how'd that go for you? I mean, you're sitting here, so we're communicating with people, so I guess that's a plus.
Yeah. It was more journalism. I don't really write too much anymore. If it had a focus in like branding or marketing, I feel like that would have been a little bit more helpful. Do I think when I look back on it, should I have spent over $100,000 and now I'm in that kind of debt? I would say no, absolutely not. I mean, my husband, Rich, he went to school to be a physical therapist, and now he is the owner of a restaurant, which is what he always wanted to do. But he feel like he had to choose something else for whatever reason. I think it's something that you really, before you make that commitment, to really, really look into.
Well, and what was his major again? What did you just say?
He wanted to be a physical therapist, so he was a Kines undergrad.
So, well, like that sort of major, you have a clear job you can get when you come out of college.
It was hard too. I'm
sure it was. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a clear path there, right?
Right.
Then there's other majors. Communications, that's a really competitive field. I mean, there's only X amount of jobs in like journalism that are out there,
right.
And they don't make any money anyway unless you like hit it really big.
True that.
So that's another issue with that major. And I say that having gone to Syracuse, where they have the Newhouse School, which is like Mike Tirico, Bob Costas, all these people. But for every one of those guys, there's thousands of people who are doing nothing right now,
right.
With that degree. A guy I went to college with works for ESPN right now. He's Dave McMenamin. And I mean, there's people I know that hit it big. There's a lot of people I know that didn't. Right? So, the flip side is like a business degree. There's a pretty clear strategy you can have with that.
Right.
I know someone that's a history major. They're now an occupational therapist. Like, I mean, it doesn't, and they spend a lot of money doing that.
Right.
I'm not going to name names on that one. So the point is, if you don't know what you're doing, don't go to college because someone else told you have to. That is the biggest issue that's going on right now. People think, well, I got to do this. Well, maybe you need to like figure out what you want to do with your life and then determine what the best path is.
Absolutely.
And that's the challenge. Get some real life experience. See what the job's going to be like before you decide you're going to spend all this money a year. I mean, even if you're going in state, it's still expensive. I mean, tuitions range anywhere from like $10,000 to like $50,000 a year right now. It's crazy. So the advice that I have for people is figure out what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's not go to college right away. Maybe you need to take a little time off or get an internship or go look into things and then determine which is the right way to go rather than just jump in and say, hey, I'm going to be a communications major or a history major. And your story is not unique.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
it's absolutely
pretty
not,
typical
which
for
is
a lot
sad.
of people. So, it's...
Figure out what you want to do. That way you don't have to go to jail for a week to pay off your debt.
Well, the point of the going to jail thing is that despite the survey, like that's like a funny answer. One of the answers was like shave your head. I mean, that's kind of silly. What were the other ones?
Walk to work for a month? I would not do that.
Never
Absolutely
have caffeine
not.
again. I mean, the stuff they're talking about is kind of a joke survey. It really shines a light on the bigger issue with the amount of money being invested in these institutions. Mm-hmm. And then you look at like the college sports aspect of it. I mean, the boosters for a lot of these big schools with big football teams, big basketball teams, they drop $20 million to fire a coach because they don't like him. That happened at Florida State very recently. Wow. So they're just like, hey, and the boosters came up with it. So they print money at these places, which is great, except for when you're the student saddled with the debt. Mm-hmm. You know how much $393 a month would get you in a home?
A lot.
A lot?
How much?
So it would be...
I'm not good at quick math. I'm learning right now.
about $67,000 more you can afford.
Oh, my gosh.
Roughly every $600 a month. This is at a 6% rate.
I was paying $12 when I first started doing my loans.
It's $100,000 on a mortgage.
Oh my
and those numbers are a lot lower now too. So I mean that's at a 6% rate. So the point is, you can buy other stuff with this. Like you can buy a home and build some wealth. So you might want to think about that when you're looking at what that payment's going to cost you.
I'd be rather putting my money there rather than just paying off my loans.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the only one. I mean, Gary Vee has come out and said, "Don't go to college." Now again, he likes these bombastic statements, and they. Just like you shouldn't buy a house, which was proven wrong. And for some people, college is the right move. Mm-hmm. For others, just get clear on what you're doing. Don't start doing something because you feel like you have to or because somebody else told you need to. That's the issue here.
I'm with you. Good advice.
So Zillow, back in the news, got rid of their Make Me Move listings. So if you don't know what the Make Me Move listing is, it's I could put my home on the market, say make me move for $1 billion, and it would be listed there. And there would be a place to contact me. So it would allow people to market their home at like that dream number. And now they're not getting rid of it. And when you go on their site, it says Zillow is no longer accepting Make Me Move listings. Zillow is here to help. Skip the hassle of a traditional sale and sell with Zillow offers. And find a premier agent to help you list and sell your home. So what I love about this is that the Make Me Move, in my view, is a passive for sale by owner. Meaning they're not like, hey, I really want you to come through and bring buyers. It's like, we'll move if we get this price. And a lot of people don't know what they're going to get for their home until they do the research or whatever else.
Right.
So they've eliminated that, and obviously now they're saying, hey, come sell with Zillow offers, which is their whole business model. So I appreciate what they're doing, and they continue to pivot here. What do you think about all this?
I think that I'm not too sure about how effective the Make Me Move kind of strategy was. I don't know if you have numbers on that, but at getting homes sold for a seller, I think it was more of a tool to at least get agents in conversations with these people who might want to sell their home. And I think that there is a conversation to be had there with those people. I mean, they have this number in their mind that they do want to sell their home for, so let's talk about how a professional can help you get that number. Now I think they're directing to be just for Zillow. You can work with a premier agent. You can either be a FSBO or do Zillow offers. I mean, I think Make Me Move was kind of not working.
So
do you think that?
So I like
in terms of what it was.
I like
you liked it because you wanted to call
more listings. Yes, I would call these people because no one else calls people that say, "Hey, I want to move." I mean,
do you know how often it kind of worked without the agent involved? Like, hey, I want this crazy number. I looked it up. I couldn't find it. But I want this crazy number. Make an offer on my house, and then a buyer does, and they kind of just do a transaction without a professional.
So there's all these questions here, and I think that it's tough to say this percentage of the time it happened.
Yeah.
Because if someone's unrealistic on their price, it doesn't really matter what's going to happen here. I mean, if people, you see the homes that sit on the market for a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 or 4 years at a time. Yes, it happens. It's also the marketing. They don't have any pictures up of the home. They don't have a description. They just put a number on it and think, oh, the market's going to do it all themselves. And what Zillow's saying here is that, hey, we'll buy your home if you want an offer. And if you don't, there's an agent that can probably help you to determine what you could sell it for. So, Make Me Moves, I mean, they were there's a different consumer opinions I wanted to pull up here because I looked at this when we prepped for the show. So this person had their house listed as a Make Me Move for 6 months. They listed it for sale by owner later. And they ended up getting several cash offers from builders who wanted to pay less than what they wanted, which is pretty typical for sale by owners.
Yes.
And that's kind of what happened. That was according to House. According to Reddit, someone listed their home as a Make Me Move a couple months ago. They were finishing a few things. They took pictures, wrote up a nice description, and once they added all the features and got the marketing to be a little more informative, they saw a spike in views. And people go to Zillow all the time. So now they didn't get any potential buyers that came in. I have seen some sell, and sometimes the Make Me Move is, I've called them on the phone and said, hey, we sold it, which is great. So I don't know how effective they were.
Right.
What I see here is that Zillow is the only person that ever really did that. And a for sale by owner, it's still a Make Me Move.
Exactly.
Anytime anyone sells or lists, not sells, it's a Make Me Move. It's saying, hey, I'm willing to move for this price. When buyers ask the question of, hey, what's the seller going to accept? Some agents will tell you, I know they'll accept the listing price. So It's the same thing. All this tells me is that Zillow is streamlining their Zillow offers program and working with more premier agents and shrinking that number down from that 80,000 number to wherever they're looking to go. I mean, that's all this is, and they just continue to pivot, and they are clear. The profit's not going to be in flipping these homes and the Zillow offers. The profit is in when they control the transaction.
They are making it really easy for a consumer. I mean, these are what your options are, not so many different things, and it's just very clear. So I think they're going in the right direction.
Now, for the agents watching,
that sucks.
So this happened today. You probably don't even know this. So we had a Zillow live call come in, and that person already met with one of our agents at an open house. They got the appointment from the call-in. So that tells me if you're an agent, you need to work a little harder at your follow-up. You need to ask the right questions. You need to go for the appointment and be more aggressive. Now, luckily, we got the appointment both times.
Good.
Well, good for the agent who spent time doing an open house, getting people to come through.
Yeah.
So this is just another example of that you're going to have to work harder and get better at your skills if you want to survive. And it's all about lead follow-up. And them coming to you, not just going to a website and typing in what's out there. And that's where you have to put the work in. It's so clear right now.
Absolutely. Cool.
So they continue to pivot. That's the conclusion we came to here.
All right, so I have some inspiration. I have a quote, and Albert Einstein wrote, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." What do you think?
So what I know is that this is basically telling people there are things you're going to be innately good at.
Right.
So double down on those and don't focus on the stuff you're not good at. And when you're building like a company or you're trying to go with a career route, find out where those skills will shine because you're going to like doing them better, one. You're going to be more successful, two. And three, you're not going to be spending time doing stuff that you're not good at. So I mean, it's a look. He's a genius, certified. And he's a great example because people thought he was stupid.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't. What they were. He came up with E equals MC squared and these different sort of formulas. But people thought Albert Einstein was not smart because they were asking him other questions and it wasn't in his wheelhouse. So coming from him, this is probably even more inspiring than it would be just from anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. When I hear it, I really think of what I know you have been saying for a while, and I've heard it other places too, but kind of taking yourself out of a space of judgment and more into a place of curiosity and really finding out, well, hey, I might not be able to learn this from this person, or they might not be able to, do this or help me with that, but maybe they're really great at something else and I could learn from them about that aspect. And if you are going to be judging them, don't do it. Really it's a conscious effort to kind of switch your mindset and look at what else they are going to be good at. And if you can help them, whoever it is, with something that they need help with, then I think it's your obligation to teach them and kind of give them some insight on that too. But definitely come out of judgment and more, like you say, into curiosity, because that will kind of change the whole perspective.
Well, and if you look at like Einstein's history here, it was you read about him. I mean, there's so many people that say, hey, he came up with the theory of relativity, right? So because he came up with that, he goes, well, this isn't just me. This is all the work that happened before me. Mm-hmm. And because he was focusing on what he was good at, he was a patent clerk in his 20s, and he was having to make ends meet that way, which is obviously where he didn't become a historically relevant scientist for that reason. So, and one of the best thinkers that we've seen in a long time. So, and he had a lot of failures. I mean, he just did everything else everyone else talks about, and he focused on what he was good at. So for him, it means a lot because his history is so interesting here. Mm-hmm. And even like Gary Vee said, like a penguin can't be a giraffe, so be like the best penguin you can be or something. It's the same thing.
Absolutely.
So it's all about focusing on what works. And when you run plays that work, you're going to be more successful.
For sure.
Catch everyone next week. Thanks for watching.